Hi friends, welcome to the NPTEL course Strategy and Technology, a practical primer. We are in week 9 with the theme of Technology as Strategic Driver. In this lecture, which is the 41st in the series, the topic is Technology and Differentiation. In the previous lecture, we have considered innovation and also innovation generic strategies. In this lecture, we will focus on differentiation. As I discussed earlier also, differentiation is a surrogate to innovation. The discussion on technology pyramid did indicate that when there is an industry, the industry would comprise of a few innovation leaders, several differentiators, and multitudes of followers. Differentiation, however, doesn't mean just being different. It's a cumulative experience by the customer of superiority on the attributes chosen by the differentiating firm. Differentiation is just not stylistic. It is also of great substance. It arises from a unique combination of innovative product design and superior functional utility. It is also a judicious combination of specialization and diversification. Differentiation is not also necessarily dependent on huge investments in R&D. It is more a faculty of perceptive observation. I would propose in this lecture 5 differentiators or 5 components of differentiation itself: observing a future, sensing a future, reimagining a future, learning a future, and timing a future. In fact, a faculty of Futurism is at the core of smart differentiation. I am emphasizing Futurism in differentiation because the future is already set by the innovator. The differentiators need to imagine a future that is distinct from what the innovator has already set. Then only the differentiation could take place. Consumer goods and pharmaceuticals are typical industries where lookalikes wage a stringent war to be able to be differentiated. Differentiation bordering on innovation, however, is required for true differentiation in such a milieu. In some industries with very high technology element, the typical industry structure could be narrower because technology is so complex and so investment intensive, and also so much of IPR being involved in that. Not everybody can be innovation leader. Only 1 or 2 will be the innovation leaders. For example, in the search engine business, there are only 2 players, one innovator and another differentiator. In the digital business of smart wearables, however, there are a few innovators, many differentiators, and many more followers. Certain coexistence between innovation and differentiation cannot be ruled out because differentiation takes innovation forward. And finally, copying also happens after the patent expiry, which is enduring. In emerging markets where barriers to entry are low and barriers to innovation are high, and where technologies are imported and replicated, the typical industry is fragmented with several lookalike players. Yet, industries in certain discerning emerging markets such as India are also characterized by intense competition, with lookalike products or services trying to be similar and different simultaneously. The branded generic pharmaceutical industry is an example of this type of differentiated followership. The nature of the industry is influenced by the nature of the technology and also the control the pioneer has over the first wave of proprietary technology. Intellectual property barriers around fundamental discoveries are critical for such monopolies. How do we differentiate in the product place and how do we differentiate in the marketplace? Marketplace differentiation depends on the nature of the market. From a supply side, we promote small and medium enterprises because that is helping in the regional development of local enterprises. They clone the few national companies, taking them as the role models, whereas a few national companies emulate a few international companies. Role modeling is part of industry evolution. This emphasis on being different in terms of branding and packaging or in terms of marketing and promotion is one differentiator. In fact, Indian market has got several brands which are unique and are appealing in terms of name and positioning. However, if you have multiple brands which do not have any differences in terms of product characteristics, and if they try to compete to be different, it may not be called true differentiation. In fact, even highly technology-driven products find it difficult to remain differentiated as technology and manufacturing become commoditized. In most cases, the channel also becomes an enabler. Packaging, promotion, and pricing become differentiators, more so in the FMCG industry. Although the core product may not be very different or differentiated, these external elements are sought to be differently done so that the mark of differentiation comes up with the product. The smartphone industry was a flagship for high technology once. That is a classic example of differentiation taking different kinds of approaches, some substantive and some not so substantive. This lecture proposes that an approach that accumulates and aggregates technological developments in terms of the 5 principles of smart superiority is the key to sustainable differentiation based on technology. So smart superiority over innovation and smart superiority which will make followership a distant dream is the one that is required for differentiation in the marketplace. How do you define differentiation? As I said earlier, differentiation is not merely being different. It is being patentable, feature different in comparison with innovators. We should not for a moment even think that only innovators are eligible for patents. Even differentiators are eligible for patents because they come up with features that are not the same as the innovator's feature. When every smartphone had a rectangular candy bar profile, the beleaguered BlackBerry came up with a square design. It was a differentiation. It was different. However, it didn't offer unique features out of the square design. Therefore, it could not become a popular smartphone. And also the original QWERTY board layout wasn't really replicated well in the square design. The first edge designs in Samsung's Galaxy and Note series of smart devices, on the other hand, brought real differentiation to the lineup. Nobody till then thought about having immediate attention to certain important apps through the edge mechanism. It attracted greater attention. Similarly, LG's curved smartphone was a first-in-class curvature-based phone. These are different designs. Again, they could not go through the full evolution as differentiated products. They were outstanding standout designs, but they could not be fully differentiated products. On the other hand, when Samsung introduced the phablet, which was in one sense a large-scale small phone or a downsized tablet, it became a differentiated product because it provided better media experience, it provided better readability, and it provided multi-screen app management. So there was a product gap that could be filled with a phablet. Now today the smartphones got standardized around the big size. 6 inches smartphones are now commonplace. In the automobile industry, always the reciprocating engine ruled the roost. Nobody else could think of any other methodology of developing power and torque. The rotary Wankel engine brought a revolutionary engine design to automobiles, but it had little to offer as a differentiator to the customer. So what? If the engine rotates internally, how does it matter to me? The same power, the same torque is being provided. Similarly, extending the two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive is a reinforcement, but not a differentiation for utility vehicles across the segments. It may be a differentiator in very hard terrains, but not a total differentiator across the utility vehicle regime. In contrast, a hybrid engine or an electric drive differentiates a green automobile from conventional gasoline cars. So for differentiation to be successful, there are some ground rules. It should be performance-centric while being different. It should be substantive in terms of specifications and capabilities and functionalities while being stylistically different. A properly differentiated product is one which is not only feature-rich in a unique manner, but also one which is capable of gaining customer acceptance. Some examples of differentiation. As I said, differentiation arises primarily from a unique combination of innovative product design and superior functional utility. It can also arise from superior customer service, which often emerges from deployment of unique technologies. One of the most differentiated products, apart from being innovative, is Apple, because product elegance is something which differentiates the product from anybody else. In respect of Toyota, product quality is the key differentiator. In respect of Shinkansen, the Japanese bullet train, timeliness to the second is the differentiator. For L&T, construction quality is differentiator. For Tata's, ethical business is the differentiator. And for Harvard, management education, amongst of course various other educational streams, is the differentiator. Companies thus get associated with certain industry-leading characteristics that extend beyond products. These are seen as firm-specific differentiating attributes. Such specific competencies position the product or the company itself in a differentiated manner in the eyes, feel, and recall of the consumer, and that evokes trust and confidence in an enduring manner. Differentiation leads to a respectful and fond recall of the product or service by the customers at one level. It also enables expectant anticipation of a new differentiated product or service at another level. The products have been so good so far, and the future generation also would be very good. That is the expectation out of a company that is known for its differentiated products. Differentiation is also cumulative and aggregating. It is not just a one-time occurrence. Like learning, differentiation gains with cumulative experience. Continuous differentiation alone can position a firm or a product line as truly differentiated. A firm can of course ensure that the bar of differentiation is continuously elevated by continuous increase in certain characteristics. And these are continuously enhancing the design, enhancing the manufacturing and marketing competencies, successive product introductions. That provides a stamp of differentiation for the company. One of the prime examples of differentiation is in the medical imaging field, radio laser therapy domains. Successive developments began achieving sharper imaging, and it enabled more precise diagnosis and surgery respectively. There is therefore a continuous increase in slicing capacity over time. CT scanning started with 8 slice designs. Then it became 16 slice, 24, 32, 64, 128, 256, 360, 500 and currently 640 slides. Unimaginable precision in scanning, also coupled with faster scanning as well as having a contrast dye which has lower impact on the body mechanism. So an unremitting march of technology is the principal support for continuous differentiation. This includes a clear understanding of the deficiencies of the current technologies and development of not only gap bridging technologies but also elevating technologies. Another example of cumulative and aggregating has been mentioned by me earlier, but it is worth recalling. You have a door locking mechanism. It can become more specialized in terms of mechanical steadiness, key grooving complexity and multiple turn locks. This is beyond what I have discussed in the previous case in terms of security and password protection, biometrics and things like that. This is the mechanical and manufacturing elegance. But when you superimpose on that the password and security mechanisms, then it becomes a completely differentiated locking mechanism or security mechanism. By combining the features of all the 4 approaches, we can get a truly differentiated locking mechanism. The success of the lockmaker as a differentiated security solutions provider would thus depend on specializing in the core locking technologies as well as integrating diversified sensor technologies. That is the core. So we are saying that there are 2 things involved in it. What is my business? Is it lockmaking or it is providing security solutions? And once you see yourself as security solution provider, you may go to any length to make that simple lock become a barrier, an effective barrier, a differentiated barrier, and also a feedback mechanism. These are the things which are possible when you redefine your business towards differentiation. Thus, differentiation is a resultant of accumulating and aggregating technological refinements in the core domain and also integrating technologies from related domains, and this will ensure significantly higher functionality, user experience and quality assurance for the company. Now, differentiation has to be smart. I said that the goal of differentiation is to have smart superiority. It may appear to pose challenges of highly investment intensive and design specific technological process, but it is not as high as that is required in the innovation space. The common myth is that huge upscale investments in R&D are required to be differentiated. It is not necessarily true. Because of this myth, many firms choose to be fast followers or licensors of technology rather than become differentiators. However, if differentiators understand or aspiring differentiators understand the ways in which differentiation can be smartly achieved, then there would be many more differentiators in the industry, and the society also would benefit from differentiation. Differentiation is as much a function of smart use of technology as it is of intense development of technology. We do have to develop technology intensely, as we have seen from the NOC example. Higher mechanical finishes, better materials, better handling, better ergonomics on one hand, but also integration of technologies which are already available from different parts of industries. Therefore, there are certain principles of smart differentiation we can conceptualize. I propose this here, and this will enable a firm to stay differentiated even with reasonable investments in technology. And differentiation, I would say, is a faculty. It is a faculty of futurism. Your ability to sense a future, your ability to observe a future, your ability to time a future, your ability to learn a future, and your ability to imagine a future. These are the ones which are involved in the futurism. Observation, sensing, imagination, learning, and timing with a futuristic perspective are the key to smart differentiation. How do you observe a future? One of the fundamental drivers of smartphones has been the camera technology. We have no doubts about it. Integration of camera functionality of increasing sophistication with higher megapixels, image stabilization, and photo editing software has differentiated successive generations of smartphones. Smartphone ceased to be just a phone once such kind of camera technology got brought into the smartphone designs. However, until 2016, all smartphone makers gave increasingly superior technology, that is up to 20 megapixel levels at that point of time, only to rear cameras, and allowed the front cameras to languish at a 2 megapixel level. Clearly, the established notion that cameras are only to take pictures of others had been so deep-rooted that one of the primary reasons for people to own camera phones was ignored by the manufacturers. They also ignored the social trend of selfies being the social reflection of togetherness. As a result, for the industry as a whole, there was no thematic development of sorts in camera technology for a long time. Even the most innovative smartphone makers took enormous time to recognize the hugely increasing popularity of selfies over the last few years, even as rear camera's capability got to be scaled up continuously. It is only now that smartphone makers are providing an equally capable front camera in smartphones. Still, the front selfie camera at 40 MP continues to be of lower capability than the rear camera of 108 MP. So there are some mindsets which are there in the decision makers at the technology level, at the product level, and at the business level. And this blinds people from observing the future. A future that is evolving. It has given so many trends. Why not have a selfie camera which has got greater power than the rear camera? Or why not have modularity between the two? The lesson is that the key to differentiation could be so obvious that it escapes attention. Smart observation can help utilize available technologies to achieve substantial differentiation by pulling out all stops on the technology front. You should sense a future. Sensor technologies are emerging to be game changers, just as computer chips have been at one point of time and continue to be. Virtually any product can be refined or re-engineered with sensor technologies. We have seen on the shop floor how sensors have helped production lines and how they have supported interline transfer logistics. They have also made, through the Poka-yoke, error-proof production, therefore reducing the cost of production. Today, driverless or self-driving or autonomous cars are a practical reality solely due to the sensor technologies, of course coupled with imaging, navigation and telecommunication technologies. Wearable devices are another example of sensor technologies bringing differentiation to conventional products. Your stability, your walking, your stress level, your blood pressure, your heart rate, everything can be monitored because of sensors. But this can go to the next level as well. What needs to be checked with only interventional checking could be also seen biologically in future. So biological sensors would be the next frontier in sensory technologies, and they would help the individuals and healthcare sector provide proactive and effective healthcare delivery. We may have been seeing the need for zero emission vehicles. It was clear, but still it is unclear as to what would be the right choice between the mix of ethanol, CNG, LNG, electric battery and hydrogen fuel cell power options. Today, even in 2022, the leading car manufacturer of India is saying that I would introduce an electric vehicle only in 2025. Is the company pursuing the future right, or others are not able to perceive the future right about the right mix of different low emission vehicles? That's where the ability to sense the future comes. The third aspect is imagining a future. Individuals and entities who are good in differentiation are also good in imagination. They constantly imagine how life can be made better. It is not the same imagination I talked about in respect of innovation. It is a leapfrogging innovation, whereas this kind of imagination is something which makes life better. Magnification technologies in the past and robotic technologies of the present have revolutionized surgeries. Human intervention hasn't gone, but human precision has gone up manifold because of the robotic technologies. Stress levels have been removed, and also robotic surgery makes surgery not necessarily single physician dependent, others also can chip in. Labeling at cellular level of human organs would provide an even greater precision in future. The emerging use of drones for several applications is a practical example of how imagination provides new differentiated solutions. Now, if you think of a bed and pillow combination, BPC, which could move from being just a sleep aid to being a health monitor and wellness provider, you can imagine what could be the change in the future development of healthcare. 8 hours of your being in the bed is going to be a laboratory monitoring, so to say, of your stress levels, your body metabolism levels and your comfort levels. Given that the sleep of 6 to 8 hours on an average is the typical daily routine for an individual, it is very easy to imagine how BPC can have the greatest potential to provide wellness than even an annual medical checkup. You have a daily medical checkup through this combination. A future which seems surreal or even amusing currently can, in the hands of a differentiated firm, become a practical and health-friendly reality. It is a function of the innovative mindset and the differentiating capability of a firm. Learning a future. Future is built by individuals who learn constantly, and learning comes from a host of inputs, who predicted the several landmarks of the future when they were beyond imagination at that point of time. I have talked about 2 books here: Arthur Clarke's 2001 A Space Odyssey, Isaac Asimov's I, Robot. Books of science and engineering, design laboratories, simulators, testing arenas are all essential for the designers to learn and develop. However, the greatest learning may come from the practical behavior of the current products in the field and the unstoppable imagination of great thinkers. The linkage between the designer and the user has to be set in the real-time world rather than through data collection and analysis of market researchers. That limits what you can learn about the future. But if you learn about the future from people who are extremely creative and extremely prolific in their thoughts, maybe you will get much more clarity on how the future will evolve and therefore create differentiated products. In differentiated companies, individuals of all departments, including the CEO and the CXOs, learn from the marketplace on a continuous basis. They also learn from things that happen strangely around us and books that have been written with scientific flavor and scientific fervor. In fact, movies have been works of fiction that predicted many technological developments. James Bond movies were known for their very advanced technological aids that were used in the spying and general transportation industry. Even a Telugu blockbuster called Mayabazar of the 1950s projected wireless video calls. I mean, the persons could talk in that movie through the video call mechanism. And at that point of time, nobody could imagine that video calling would be possible. But that has been made possible by the innovation of the writer and the director at that point of time. So learning a future from such people, such stalwarts, is also an essential facet of becoming differentiated. The other final one is timing a future. Given India's developmental aspirations, differentiation that supports new governmental missions such as smart cities and Make in India are timely for a new future for India. There are two views on innovation-led differentiation. We have a cautious and conservative view that says that innovation would be off mark if it is commercialized ahead of market preparedness. There is also a proactive and aspirational view that prompt introduction of innovations creates its own markets. People talking about the former will say that the concept of retail was brought in several decades ago by certain groups, but it failed because it was too far ahead of the requirement. I would, however, differ from this. I would say that they failed because the promoters of those concepts failed to recognize the importance of ecosystem development. If you want to have a mass retailing approach, you need to have a supply chain which is agile. And that supply chain must be backed by contractual arrangements with the growers, with the providers of the processed and unprocessed items. That was not taken care of. But today's mass retailing takes care of that and goes even one step ahead with digitization and other financial support measures. The summary of all what we have discussed is that when any or all the principles cited above are available with the firm to develop a differentiated product or service, it would be possible to render great socio-economic justice to the company. When we have the talent to do all of these things with a futuristic mind, why should we hold back as companies and as individuals? We are doing injustice to the socio-economic development of the nation. We should therefore bring out all the talent that we have in terms of innovation and differentiation so that products and services can be continuously developed to higher levels of capability and utility. We also have, of course, to recognize that certain geopolitical or socio-economic considerations do dictate or influence the timeliness of innovations. For example, when you have a COVID-like situation, we can do only a few types of innovations and differentiation. That may not be the right time to do anything beyond what is essentially required for the national development. But when the things better themselves, we should look at differentiation coming in a big way, and some of those differentiated products may actually help the people handle future emergencies much better. Futurism, I hold, is the differentiator. Competitiveness of a business accrues from superior faculties, and imagination is one of them. Differentiation shares with innovation the characteristic of a future imaginative approach. What are the core faculties for designers and developers in firms which are committed to differentiation as a strategy? First of all, sophisticated sensing mechanisms. Second, imagining the use of ordinary to deliver the extraordinary. Learning from the past as well as the present. Adopting methods of sharp observation and timing the future developments. And none of these things come in no particular order or in any particular order. It cannot be completely random, but at the same time, each of these is so creative that we can't say that we will go in a sequential manner from observing to sensing to learning, etc. Anything can happen at any point of time. If you keep reading scientific books, if you keep reading about the historical development and also the futuristic projection, there will be a lot of knowledge of futurism that is going to be ingrained in us. Futurism therefore needs to be a strong cultural facet of individuals and organizations that are committed to a technology-driven competitive strategy of differentiation. Organizations that have futurists and encourage their thinking would be far ahead of others. There is no doubt about that. Let's see how media was revolutionized by differentiation. At the very origin, we had Gutenberg's printing press in the 15th century. A process of printing with movable metal type was invented by him. That technique revolutionized the way information was disseminated, allowing publications to be produced on a large scale and quickly. So without the printing press mechanism or invention, we would not have had the publishing industry. We would not have had the ability to have mass availability of knowledge. Then came newspapers. Newspapers played a very important role and continue to play an important role in keeping the readers informed. We need to know on a daily basis whatever has been happening in the past. And their history can be traced back to many hundreds of years. In England, for example, the first known newsletter there, Requests of the Devonshire and Conshire Rebels, dates back to 1549 according to the News Media Association. Then came radio along with electronics, the basic electronics. Hourly and half-hourly news bulletins combined with programs on a host of topics from sports to culture and cookery to comedy and drama to fiction mean that the radio is arguably still as relevant today as it was in the years before podcasts, the web and the streaming. Revolution happened with the internet. There has been a dramatic shift in the industry as newspapers and news organizations moved to publish stories both online and in print. People no longer needed to rely only on physical newspapers. People could check news on a real-time basis, and newspapers were also not left far behind. They came up with e-newspapers so that they could exploit both the digital and the print medium. There will be people who would like to see it in real print, whereas some would like to have it instantaneously. Those who are very conscious of environment tend to prefer digital. Of course, they do not know what it means in terms of the digital handling and the power consumption of that mode as well. Research needs to be done on that. And finally, the smartphones as we know today. And they are the ones which we use to check something in the morning and before we go to bed. Whether it is via our favorite news site or through the social media, dissemination of information has become real-time and all-pervasive, at times unfortunately also not so correct and at times fake as well. So we need to see the evolution of medium or media in this way. But within each of these things, there have been technological revolutions and technological differentiators. In the earlier days, several decades ago, a newspaper had to be produced in a particular center to be able to be delivered in good time. But then digital approaches came in and facsimile editions came up. That is, computer-wise, the editions will be made in one central place and they will be transmitted to various other centers and they will be produced locally and provided. So the transportation time from the producing center to the receiving center has been drastically cut down. It is therefore today possible to keep compiling news and keep printing it, let's say until 2 a.m. in the morning, and present the newspaper fresh from the printing machine publishing house by 5 a.m. in the morning again. So that is the kind of change that has happened in the newspaper industry. Always newspaper, radio, the internet and smartphone would vie with each other to be able to be one upon each other, and to be differentiated we require those abilities which we discussed in the earlier slides. Let's take the case study of differentiated journalism. When everybody can write, everybody has a passion to speak, everybody has a passion to share the knowledge, how do we ensure that journalism is offered to them? Generally, journalism is based on known journalists. Newspaper companies have journalists on their payroll or in contract. We have journalists who can contribute to many journals and many periodicals as well as newspapers. We also have journalists who are dedicated to certain media houses. In such a situation, medium has come up as a novel business model of differentiated journalism. It was the brainchild of E.V. Williams, former co-founder of Twitter. It has come up as a new writing platform for the masses. It is a publishing platform that enables everyone to share their stories and ideas. And in doing so, they create their own blogs, they create their own journal platforms, and they get followed. Medium realized that the key was getting people to start publishing. The readers would follow because everybody has passion to communicate. As a result, it did everything it could to get writers to use the program. 3 actions stand out. 1. Making the platform incredibly easy to use. But before that, allowing only a select group of journalists and whiz kids to use it at first and prove the ease and the impact of the platform. Once it got useful, then developing a sophisticated content management system built for larger publications. In so doing, Medium was quick to establish itself. Big publications such as Think Progress, The All, The Ringer, and later also Forbes started migrating to the system. In total, several million posts have been published on this platform, and Medium has garnered over 100 million monthly active users as of now. This has led to the next wave of automated journalism. Aftonbladet, Helsingin Sanomat are 2 examples. At the beginning of March, as COVID-19 was strengthening its grip on the European countries, the Swedish daily newspaper Aftonbladet partnered with a startup United Robots to assemble an automated system that helps reporters monitor 21 regional health authorities. This group of journalists can access automated stories through a dedicated Slack channel and tweak them before publishing the final copy on a live feed dedicated to the coronavirus crisis. The same goes for journalists at the other platform in Finland. They also edit the same way the automated stories they get through the newspaper's own bot. Likewise, the agency RADA, which acts as an automated newswire for media clients across the United Kingdom, publishes daily updates on the spread of the virus for 150 areas. This is a very focused method of journalism that we have seen. There have been 3 innovations in digital journalism. The proliferation of fake news, along with the widespread use and misuse of that phrase, has turned into a major problem in the US and also around the world. But fact-checking has become a more time-consuming and costly process, given the rapid pace of information as well as misinformation on the internet. Therefore, the need for automated fact-checking has been felt, and companies started getting into that business. Variety of formats, browser extensions, message bots, and apps came up as tools for journalists as well as the general public. So we have 3 companies or 3 entities, Claimbuster, FullFact, and True, as machine learning tools that could be used for ensuring fake news getting filtered out of the publications. Claimbuster is a machine learning tool that was developed by a computer scientist in collaboration with outside journalism experts and computer scientists from Duke University and other institutions. The tool rates whether a sentence is check-worthy on a scale of 0 to 1. It combs through statements, speeches, and documents, detecting sentences and keywords that warrant fact-checking based on a human-labeled dataset, a process that can save reporters a considerable amount of time. FullFact is a British fact-checking organization with similar mission as American counterparts, and it offers several automated fact-checking tools and is working to develop others. A Chrome extension developed by the Reporters Lab at Duke University is also a tool which provides real-time fact-checking. What we can see is that there are 2 aspects. One, the need in the marketplace being the reporters and the publishing mediums, of checking the facts and separating the fake news. Underlying that are the tools and apps and a whole set of business initiatives to support that. And this is how differentiation and innovation can help any field to grow beyond what can be envisaged or imagined at one point of time. And to be able to do this imagination is part of the process of differentiation. Now, let's look at another case study, which is differentiated lighting. Technology development in home light bulb. That is the theory here. Base Edison technology that was invented by Edison supported incandescent bulbs for over a century, from 1879 to 1985. It is amazing that for over 100 years there was no substitute for the incandescent bulb or the light filament bulb. Fluorescent tube lights began to be available from the 1940s. In the recent 25 years, we have seen the development of compact fluorescent lamps as well as LED technologies. There has been massive improvement in energy efficiency and form factor from the first design, accompanied by progressive drop in pricing, significant increase in lifespan and increase in customization options. Now we have microchip embedded and sensor enabled smart bulbs for diverse home applications. What you can see is the pace of innovation and the pace of differentiation, and these result in lower energy costs with higher density, higher lighting efficiency, and the life itself has gone up. Today we not only have bulbs, but we have bulbs which are with pendant fixtures, ceiling fans, wall mounted lights, recessed cans, accent lighting and so on. And the bulb brightness has also gone up significantly and reduces the energy consumption. If a traditional incandescent light bulb provided an energy efficiency of 10%, incandescent halogen bulb provided 30% more, CFL provided 75% more, and LED provided 90% more. According to Energy Star, if every American home replaced the 5 most frequently used light fixtures or the bulbs in them with LED bulbs that have earned the Energy Star rating, America would save energy to light 33 million homes for a year, save nearly $5 billion each year in energy costs, prevent greenhouse gases equivalent to the emissions from nearly 6 million cars. That is the impact of having more efficient energy systems at homes. And imagine what would happen when this is applied at the industrial and office level. However, as shown by disruptive innovation theory, the first to enter such fields with those aspirations tend to be inefficient. The first to market LEDs were inefficient in heat dissipation and burned out prematurely. However, positive technology keeps on emphasizing those features and improves those features for customers and also protects the environment. They don't try to market in spite of those features. They recognize and improve upon those features which are not considered acceptable. That's how disruptive innovation becomes mainstream innovation. LEDs invention has been game changer for the energy industry. More than 1/4 of the world's energy use is taken by lighting, making the LED invention a game changer for humanity. For the same amount of energy, an LED bulb emits 4 times the light of a fluorescent bulb and almost 20 times the light of an incandescent bulb. Dr. Akasaki-san, whose photo you can see, he shared the Nobel Prize in Physics in 2014 with Hiroshi Amano-san of Japan, Shoji Nakamura-san of the University of California, Santa Barbara. Their invention of blue light emitting diodes led the way for a vast wave of light sources that are cheaper, more durable and environmentally safer than incandescent and fluorescent bulbs. First generation LED lamps required a combination of red, green and blue light to produce familiar white light. While red and green diodes were first developed in the 1950s and 1960s, blue light proved to be a far more challenging hurdle. Following early work at RCA in the late 1960s, Dr. Akasaki-san began trying to grow high-quality crystals of the semiconductor gallium nitride in the early 70s at the Matsushita Research Institute, Tokyo, which was the leading electronics company. By the late 80s, they had managed to generate blue light from their chips. Around the same time, Dr. Nakamura, working at the Nishia Corporation, a chemical company in Tokushima, Japan, built on their breakthrough to produce a bright blue LED that would eventually enable the chips to be applied to lighting. So 2 things. 1, relentless focus on achieving what was seen as impossible. Second, more than one person, more than one brilliant individual, more than one brilliant institution working simultaneously in different places can get together and integrate an innovation that can be making a particular product differentiated as well as innovative. If you want to read further about this very exciting developments, please go through these notes. With this, we come to the end of this lecture. We'll meet again in the next lecture. Thank you.